Good to see you all. Wonderful to see the energy in the room. And it is a very nice reunion for over 100 people here who went through many of our work. And I think this is a pioneer act of KAICEED to bring all of you together. That's really an incredible energy went into this. And we're so happy to see you and be with you, especially with the framing of this topic, which is the SDG, and also the United Nations is reviewing right now their efforts in the SDG. So the timing of the theme is excellent, but you know, the theme and the timing is not enough usually. We need the people, and I think you are the perfect candidate in our review to do such a review. Just a few words in the beginning about what is this tonight and also tomorrow, because tonight we're kicking off this conference together, and we're going to use a reflective mode of examining the contribution of dialogue and interreligious dialogue into the SDGs. And we have, out of the 17, we have chosen 4 of those SDGs. SDG 4, to ensure inclusive and equitable equality education. SDG 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. 16, promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development to provide access to justice. And SDG 17, which relate to partnership, and without partnership, of course, nothing can be achieved by one organization, and it's very important to look at that. As you know, KAICEED subscribe to the principle of in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and view the practice of dialogue as a fundamentally connected to human rights and to advancing the global development agenda. In fact, dialogue can play a central role in advancing the Sustainable Development Goal because of effective dialogue can improve coordination among all the stakeholders while increasing important values such as respect and inclusion. And inclusion is our title, social inclusion and the social cohesion is the title for our opening panel and our opening session, but the subsequent sessions of tomorrow and the group work you will be doing is really to explore what are the limits and what are the challenges of interreligious community, interreligious fellows like yourself and your institution. How can we contribute? What stories did you bring us from your work? We have seen some of them, actually many of them on the internet and on the social media, and we're looking forward for not only us hearing them, but we're looking forward to provide a space and in the KAICEED practice, a safe space for you to actually swim and delve into this question of how can your work support the SDGs achievement as well. And obviously we'll do that not only in theory, but also in actual and concrete stories and examples from your work. That is the purpose, that's the explicit purpose of our 2 days conference. An implicit one is to strengthen your sense of community. Because you are community, if you like it or not. You're already the community of KAICEED and the ambassadors of KAICEED. And our hidden agenda here is for you to get more connected and create more connection across countries, across gender, across nationality, across religion, and to test if you really can do partnership and collaboration with other individuals as well a group, and that's our hidden agenda in addition to the to the learning and learning about the stories and the practices. So we do invite you to use that space and really get to know each other better, because we know we have people who have not met before physically, and this is our Mukhtabar laboratory lab here. You can practice and test hypotheses of how much you can tolerate the other. And I invite you to test that. Swati was very generous in introducing me. Thank you. And I'm supposed to invite our panelists. And we have 4 wonderful panelists who came from different parts of the world with lots of story. Mrs. Sandar Ken from the cohort 2016 Peace Cultivating Network from Myanmar. We'll go, actually this one, yes, thank you. You already know that. And then we'll take Augustine Major Seminary. And Dr. Amana Nourish from also cohort 16, Consortium for Religious Studies from Ganja Mada University from Indonesia. Dr. Amana here. And then our last panelist is, where's the fourth? Oh, Jeffrey. Rabbi Jeffrey Berger. Jeffrey Berger from UK. Who's also from cohort 16. We have 3 from cohort 16 and 1 from cohort 18, and through dialogue to the SDGs and also about the limitation that you have faced. If you can give us some stories in that context. And then we would like to open it to the remaining cohort and also to our guests, honorable guests, to see if they have any questions, any comments, any remarks of what you say. Hopefully we'll have about 20 minutes of open discussion as well with everyone. And I was told to start with Myanmar. Are you okay to start first? Yes? Excellent.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the floor to the Myanmar, as Myanmar is a very hot topic in the international community nowadays. So I'm very pleased to start with this panel. So in the age of transition, we are facing many difficulties and many challenges in terms of SDG goals. So I'd like to specify in this panel about citizenship issue regarding to my country. So inclusion is very important to be a part of community. So for that, you need to be recognized from the communities in terms of legals or in terms of like connection to the community. For that, citizenship is one of the tools to recognize to be a part of community. So in Myanmar, we have many challenges to the SDG goals and inclusion, as you may heard all about. So I'd like to focus this citizenship issues because we have like second largest community of statelessness. It's against SDG goal 2030 to be a fulfill of everyone to be a citizen of the country. So now today, you are facing the challenges. I think it is very important to be an interreligious dialogue actor, to be involved in that case and to solve that problems. And we have a challenge, legal challenges. It's called 1982 citizenship laws. It's make barriers to get access to citizenship rights to the minority religious communities. For example, like it's mentioned like it's categorized as 3 types: full citizenships and half citizenships, and another called gas or mixed blood citizenships. So it make people divided to the societies, and it make exclusion to the society, some societies. Now everybody might heard that Rohingya community being out of the country and living in the camp of IDPs in Bangladesh. So this is the one root cause of the citizenships issues in Myanmar. So in terms of interreligious actors, how they can involve in that case, and as Myanmar is a really religious focused country, Myanmar being recognized as a Buddhist nation. So Buddhist monks and Buddhist religious actors are really plays an important role. So in some community, they are, how should I say, they are the leaders. For example, in the village, if they talk, if they give speech, then everybody's follow like an order. So they are really a key person in the communities. So we cannot neglect those religious actors because they are really influenced in the community. So I think it is, I don't know how to relate it to SDGs because I'm talking all the limitations. So I will go to recommendation. I think that's better. So for the recommendation, we have to recognize as a religious leader, as a stakeholder, so that they can get involved in the making decision or their concern, and we have to push to them to fulfill our goals, to get involved to them into the dialogue tables, so that they will feel that they are a part of the decision making, and they might not against when we do like developments, when we are implementing development goals. So it means that we will not left behind them. I think I will start with that, and I'll follow with others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for highlighting three major points. One is the acknowledgement of the ranking of various status for citizenship as we follow Myanmar case, those who have no citizenship at all, those who have partial one or conditional one, and we know this is applied for many people in Myanmar as well. Also, you emphasize the highlight of the importance of the religious leader, because people listen to them, and the need for them to speak, but you also emphasize that they don't really all of them speak, and they still need to be encouraged, still need to be pushed to come to the table, and really assure them that if they speak up, the risk will be less to them. Maybe later on in the question, you can think of a story and example from your initiative. I am sure many people would like to hear from there. Mr. Mugu, can you tell us your experience in Nigeria? You always can have it, and you bring it back.
Thank you very much. I'm from Nigeria. My name is Mugu. As we're all aware that the SDGs are blueprints for better and sustainable future for all, and aim at addressing global challenges such as inequalities, poverty, justice, peace, and the rest. The role of religious leaders or religion in Nigeria cannot be overemphasized. Nigeria is a nation that is known to be number one in terms of religion. And I can say it emphatically here that the population of Nigeria is getting to almost to 2 million. 200 million rather. 95% of the population of Nigerians are religious people. Every 10 out of any population, you will get 8 that are religious people. And therefore, the role of religion and religious institutions cannot be overemphasized. Number one, religion serves as a tool for shaping the character of every Nigerian. I want to say that Nigeria is standing on the wheel of religion. That you cannot take it away. We eat religion, we sleep with religion, we drink religion, it's part of us. And therefore, you cannot separate a Nigerian with religion. Religion has helped in molding and in bringing unity. Now, religious institutions have played actually vital roles when you look at goal number 4 in terms of health, goal number 5, which talk about gender equality, and goal number 4 is quality education, goal number 4, gender equality, and 16 that we're talking about. And so religious leaders have a way of penetrating the government. I think I have slides that we need to be showing as I'm talking along. And it is only religious leaders that can talk to the government and they will listen. And so in Nigeria, religious leaders are influencers. They are they are well respected. Now let's look at the only way we can constructively involve dialogue, for me, is to look at SDG 4 that talks about quality education, and look at SDG 5 that talk about gender equality and empowerment of women. It is so disheartening that men are the perpetrators of the problems we have today, but they are the ones that are discussing on behalf of the women. So for us to address these SDGs, we have to look at that women need to be involved in our dialogue. Thank you. She said something about women mediators in Nigeria. I know about that. So it's high time for us to engage women. It is high time for us to look at quality of education, because this is affecting us. Limitations of SDG, of dialogue. It will interest you to know that even those who are talking about dialogue are not conversant with the concept of dialogue. And therefore, this is a big limitation. Again, in Nigeria, let me use Nigeria as an example, we have two major religions, Islam and Christianity. But there are other religions that are not considered, in fact, they consider them as cultist group. We have the Ekanka, we have Great Message, we have the traditional religion, we have the Ogboni fraternity. All these people are not called on when we're talking about dialogue. So for me, it's a limitation. And another limitation of dialogue in Nigeria is the governance deficits. How do you call someone to come and discuss with him when he's hungry? How do you call someone to come and discuss with him when his father and mother were slaughtered in front of him? And they are battling with trauma. And nobody is talking about that. For me, this is what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It seems that our fellows woke up on the limitation side this morning. They are emphasizing the limitations, victimhood, lack of inclusivity, and also lack of a genuine, deep knowledge of the dialogue are three limitations that Mogo have decided to engage them. Of course, re-emphasizing women, the importance of engagement of women, and in his views, men are the perpetrator, yet women need to be coming and fixing the problem as well. We can have some conversation about that later. Our colleague from Indonesia, Dr. Amana.
Yes, thank you, Professor Abu Nimer. Thank you to Kaisit. This is our honor to be here to share our stories. I'm Amanah Nurish from Indonesia. I work as anthropologist, mostly working about interfaith issues as well as environmental issues. I have been working with USAID in the program of climate change. So we work a lot how interfaith dialogue can be together with the issue of environmental crisis. So I just want to tell the story when I have been around across the country, like in Ambon, this conflict area, somehow one of the problem in the conflict area like Ambon, it has been connected with the issue of environmental crisis, among fishermen, farmers, and villagers, the politics of natural resources and so on. So that's why I think how religious institutions must be involved in this big problem. So as we know that we are living in the age of transition, in one side, religion can be, can be a tool of wisdom. But in another side, religion can also be evil. So this is kind of in the age of transition. Sometimes the role of religions is very tricky, you know. But in another side, what is the transition means? That we also now having the problem of climate change, global warming, environmental degradation, and so on. So how we as religious institutions, as peacemaker, to connect with this reality. I think this is like what I am doing in Indonesia, for example. Just recently happened, we have like a rainforest initiative in our country that we have also from 900 religious leaders from 125 countries in the world. So I think this initiative, you know, is very important because not only speaking about the theological issue in terms of interfaith dialogue, but this is more practical issues. We need more clean water, we need more fresh air, we need to make peace in the good environment, in the healthy environment, and so on. So that's why I think in terms of role on religious institution, we need to be working more practical rather than theological issues. So this is why in the anthropological perspective, when we discuss about the issue of climate change, mostly like Indonesia, let's say the example of Indonesia, we are containing 17,000 islands with 100 religions, with hundreds local belief. So what happens in this kind of diversity of religions? Although we are mostly a Muslim population, of course, yes, we are like 8,500. Sorry. Almost 90% Muslim population. This is what I would like to say. So the rest is indigenous belief that live in the forest area. The problem is that we have the issue of deforestation that really impacts in our cultural decline as well as spiritual decline, because people's greed, you know, the greedy of human beings sometimes make impact of our spiritual decline and the richness of our culture. So I think what is the most important issue that I would like to raise in this conference is that for interfaith dialogue must be more inclusive and understand in wider context in every level of society, including indigenous communities living in the forest area. And the last one, building more awareness and engagement of climate actions based on interfaith dialogue for SDG. Yeah, this is what I am working for Indonesian. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we're doing very well in time. These fellows are very committed to time. They all finish under 5 minutes, so maybe I can do a round 2 here. Rabbi, we went to the climate change in Indonesia, and we went to the rainforest, and also we've been told that development, poverty, and the climate change are 3 common areas that don't discriminate between Muslim, Christian, and indigenous, and it's a connection between all these groups, and it's the obligation of religious leaders to work on them. And another time, the challenge, I think, echoing what Mogu said, inclusivity. For the interreligious dialogue need to be inclusive, including indigenous people as well. Tell us about your experience in UK or beyond. Thank you. I think that works. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor. And esteemed audience, it is a delight to be here. It is a real privilege. One of the things that always I feel when I'm with CAICID is the enormous impact that it has had in such a short period of time. This evening, I'd like to present you with 3 slides. I'm going to talk about a program which is called Camp Unity, an attempt to create social cohesion through interfaith camping. But because of the limit of time, I'm not also able to tell you about a separate project, which is called Mitzvah Day, and that will be, a slide will be presented at the very end of my talk, and hopefully it will offer opportunity for us to discuss that during the questions and answers. First slide, please. The town of Elstree and Boreham Wood, with a population of roughly 37,000 people, is located in the borough of Hartsmere in the county of Hertfordshire, which is one of 48 ceremonial counties in England. Today, Boreham Wood is the seat for the Hertsmere Borough Council, and it strives to promote and to improve the economic, social, and environmental well-being of the area. The Council's 3 aims are to create a healthier, a safer, and a thriving community for all. They have sister city relationships in France and in China. In terms of composition, 84% of the population identifies itself as white, 67% of residents own their own homes, unemployment and crime rates are lower than the national average, but there are pockets of deprivation within the town, with 3 to 4% of children living in poverty. The idea of Camp Unity came from a meeting in January 2019 with the Lord Lieutenant of Hertfordshire, Robert Voss, who is interested in promoting interfaith and entrepreneurship. For those unfamiliar, the Lord Lieutenancy represents the royal family in the county, performing many roles either with or on behalf of Queen Elizabeth II. Next slide, please. By building partnerships with 5 local faith communities, Catholic, Evangelical, Protestant, Muslim, and Jewish, my aim was to melt social and religious barriers across communities brought on by years of self-segregation. That is to say, people live in the community, but they don't have any reason to engage with each other. And the second aim was to provide an equal opportunity for the children of the town. From May until early August, the partners met to plan the camp and its logistics, the site, the equipment, etc. Against the background of all of this planning, from 26th to the 30th of August 2019, for 5 days and 4 nights, Camp Unity Boreham Wood was held at the nearby Welland Scout Activity Center, in which we had 35 children who participated. You'll see from the map that most of the religious communities are within 5 to 10 minutes walk from each other. And yet, as I explained, they really had very little interaction. So I believe that this project complied with parts of the 4 SDGs that we are focusing on in this conference, as well as SDGs of SDG number 1, no poverty, and SDG number 10, reducing inequalities. As faith leaders and trustees, we recognize our communities are robust but self-segregating, adding to a general sense of apprehension, misunderstanding, and stereotyping toward one another. We also recognize the problem of income disparity. We believe the first step was to bring together primary school children of multicultural and multi-faith backgrounds, engaging them and enabling them to develop friendships. Next slide, please. Camp fees were subsidized at £5 per day, which included breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus a daily craft and a sports activity and entertainment at night. We provided camp equipment for those who couldn't afford it. This enabled children from the lower income backgrounds to participate. As a planning committee, we felt it our obligation to show children a new way of engagement with nature and with others whom they might not regularly meet. In this way, we ascribed to SDG 16.6 and 16.7, developing effective, accountable, and transparent institutions at all levels, and ensuring responsive, inclusive, participatory, and representative decision-making at all levels. To a degree, we also complied with SDG 16B, promoting and enforcing non-discriminatory laws and policies for sustainable development. What is the constructive role interreligious engagement and dialogue can play in supporting the SDGs? I'll conclude by saying, in that the project was supported enthusiastically by some, but not all, of the community's religious leaders, as well as by several political counselors, we believe that our success was based on the desirability of the idea and the accumulated result of years of interfaith engagement through our faith forum, which meant that we knew each other and we trusted each other. Our 7 trustees, 4 men and 3 women, helped us to gain food grants and also to raise money from the borough and the county councilors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wish all the speakers in all the conferences I go to stick to time underneath 5 minutes and convey their case in such a systematic, clear way and applies the case as well. Thank you, Rabbi. Really, listening to this case, it's very clear that you don't have to live in a war-torn area to be self-segregated. Rabbi Jeffrey lives in UK, and he says self-segregation is the disease. And his cure to the disease was basically low budget, £5, $7 or $8 per person to take them for a camp and do a classic encounter, basically a dialogue or encounter the other in a safe space. Thank you for sharing that. And most important, it's an interreligious committee that organized that, because Christian could do this alone, Muslim could do this alone, but I think the joint aspect is the important. I'd like to go back to Myanmar and ask for a concrete example about your experience as well from the work that you have done, and maybe also, Mugo, if you have something, we can give you 2 more minutes. We've had the climate change, we have the camp, and maybe we can leave with 2 examples. That's your mic.
Thank you for the floor again. So as there are many challenges, but we didn't give up, and we are moving forward. So it is not at the age of transition and at the age of like democratization as in Myanmar. So Myanmar is now transition to dictatorship to democracy country. We are facing many challenges in terms of transition, political transition, we can say that. So as my part of works, I'm involving in peace cultivation networks. So mostly we gather with religious leaders from different backgrounds. So we have a guideline for citizenship for religious leaders and community leaders. If in their community, if some people, they don't have citizenship, the leaders can use that guideline to get citizenship cards. So in Myanmar, according to the 2014 census, 24% of the population, they don't have citizenship cards. Means that even though they are living in the country, they are not recognized as citizens. So it's very important if you are getting jobs, or if you are applying for government staff, or if you are working for other places, it is needed. It is a business need for your career. So we are trying to fulfill those gaps with the leaders. And also we have guidelines for lawyers. We focus to the lawyers if there is like citizenship issue who are not getting card, so we have a guideline with the lawyers. Now, we've been doing this work for 4 years. So now over 70,000 people get citizenship card around 12 townships. And next step.
70,000?
Sorry?
70,000?
Yes, 7,000.
7,000.
7,000. Because it is very important to get like access to citizenship, right, is related to fundamental human rights, and also it's related to non-discrimination. Next step is we are going to do the structural change. It is 1982 law amendment. So now we are 11 network gathering to push to the government to amend the 1982 law citizenships related to human rights point of view. So this I'm working. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the concrete example. 7,000 people benefit from a campaign of advocacy for citizenship. That's something very concrete and affect people's life in a very concrete way. Mugu, do you have an example about interreligious dialogue, or you gave up in Nigeria? Take this, bring this,
No.
and bring me back when you finish.
Thank you. I think I have a lot of examples. Time would not permit me.
Just
Let
give
me
us
just
one.
say,
Give us one.
yeah, that interreligious dialogue in Nigeria is key. I remember the baby that was given birth by KAICIT, that is called IDFP, Interreligious Dialogue for Forum for Peace. It was established by KAICIT.
The platform, yes.
The platform, yes. And so I have been working with them. Even last Thursday, Friday, I was with them.
Good.
This forum is actually working. For us, interreligious dialogue is something that is considered paramount because we have very big, let me use the word big, religious leaders that are involved in this dialogue. You cannot remove the Sultan of Sokoto, you know him.
I know him, yes.
You cannot remove Cardinal Onayeka, you know him.
Yes,
out of that, these are strong men because Nigerians will respect religious leaders. So anytime they talk, we listen. And so for me, this is what we need. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So here's another example of involvement of high level in the platform. We have a quite number, lots of time for questions and also for observation. And I will take comments, questions, and of course it's a dialogical space. Feel free to use your dialogical ways of asking the question without blaming, but you can make the question hard or soft depending on your interest and the type of answer you want. And I welcome also our guests, Your Excellencies, whoever have a question or a comment about specific program, we would welcome them that. Okay, do we have mic? Thank you. Excellent. So we'll start here. Yes, please. If you have a question to a specific person, please name that, and the floor is yours.
Okay. My name is Rajendra Century. I'm from Nepal. First of all, I would like to thank all the panelists for your valuable insights on SDGs and the IRDs, the role of IRD. My question is particularly to Shin, yeah? Shin from Myanmar? Yeah. So, yeah, you recommended that it is important to engage the religious leaders, to push the religious leaders to engage in decision-making or to make the policy. When the government makes the policy, so we need to push the religious leaders to engage in the policy-making process, yeah? But I've seen like the problem lies, the greater problem lies either way. That is, the governments do not want the civil society stalwarts, religious leaders, human rights activists, and this kind of, let's say, first, second, third, fourth track of diplomacy, diplomats to engage in the process. Do you agree or not? If you agree, could you please suggest how can we expand the civic space for civic engagement for decision-making process related to SDG particularly? Thank you.
Thank you. And before you answer, I know you want to answer, maybe we can take a couple of more questions. And the question here is important. How do you deal with the rejection, resistance of the government to engage civil society on issues that relate to political decision-making? That's the question, if I got it right. Yes, Mabrouk, I cannot say no to you.
Thank you, Mugu, for tackling the gender issue. And we hope that we, KAICIT women, can work more collectively towards this issue. We have started yesterday forming a movement, and we are waiting for the support of KAICIT for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that was a comment, and it's an indicator of women empowerment in KAICIT that the group has formed internally to try and advocate for women influence in KAICIT. That's the message, right? Yes. All right, okay. I don't think she need. Thank you. Yes, yes, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Teresita from Philippines. I would like to address my question to Mugu Zaka of Nigeria. Because as I'm listening, it's the same with our situation in the Philippines, particularly in Mindanao, that we have IRD activities, but then it just highlights two religion, Christianity and Muslims. And the other religions existing there are not really that active, no? We have Buddhism, Hindu, Taoism. We have also Sikhism. And other tribal people also has their own way of worship. So I would like to know more on how you go into the process to apply the principle of inclusion with this all existing groups or religion, and are there any challenges you encounter with this? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So maybe we can take one more comment or a question, and then we will. Okay, who give you the mics? Who? There seem to be.
I was given by.
Okay, good.
Good evening, everyone. My introduction is directed to Mugu Zaka. I'm Habiba from Nigeria. When you were discussing Nigeria, I was just wondering. We saw the picture of the Sultan and the Catholic priest. And my belief, based on my training here at KAICID, dialogue is better achieved from the grassroots. You know, these people's level of engagement are at the national level. We are not feeling it at the grassroots level. How do you think we can do that? You know, in the villages, in the rural communities, people don't know anything about it. And when the resources are given, they are also distributed at the national level. They don't come to the grassroots level. How do you think we can combat this?
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have 3 questions, and Rabbi as well as Dr. Amana, you can comment on the question later, but we'll start with Myanmar and your response to the engagement of government.
Thank you for the question. So I agree that the state and religious should be separated, like state should be secular. I really agree that in terms of my political ideologies. So I mentioned that not in decision-making level, but in like a state and rural community level, state and community levels. So to recognize as leaders. Now, so the religious leaders are really connected to the community. They are not only just living in the temple. They reach to the community. Community reach to them. So they want to be a part of like community members. Like they want them to see as a community leader too, not as a religious leader. So I think it is good to involve them to be a part of what we works.
I think I confused you. My question was like, how do we expand the civic engagement in the political decision-making process in the government? So that was the question.
Okay. So civic space, civic engagement to the.
Any ideas how? What can KAICID or your work engage, overcome the challenge that the Myanmarese government are not seeing a role for religious leaders in the peace processes of decision making?
Okay, so it is far away as Myanmar. I think even the civil society being neglected from the civic space and many people being arrested. like including me, I'm still in the charge of like Section 20 for Peaceful Assembly Law. So I think it is really far away, but we have to try. We have to do advocacy. But in this point, we have to be very careful not giving to the religious leader like much more roles, because sometimes it goes like a backwards. If we are giving power, many power to them, they might mislead to other way because they are like a strong institution. So, yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's really something we hear lots in Myanmar. Which religious leader you want to engage in politics? Because right now they are engaged in politics, and because they're engaged in politics and their influence on many issues, you ended up in such situation, and that's the argument for separation that I think you refer to. Mugu, you have two tough questions.
Thank you very much. Let me start with my sister that appreciated when I talk about issues of women. I think it's a very serious issue in Nigeria, even though women need to be involved in the dialogue. There's no way you'll be talking about issues of women and they're not there. The proverb, African proverb said, you cannot shave the head of a man in his absence. I don't know whether you understand that a man is not there here, but you are shaving his head. How? The women are not there, but you are discussing their issues. And when she talk about women mediators, I have met some of them that just came back from London. I'm sure they talk about issues like that. So I appreciate that. So dialogue, we need to involve women. Other religions not included in dialogue. It is true. In Nigeria today, Nigerians are seated here. If you ask them how many religions do we have, they will tell you 3. Christians, Muslims, and traditional religion. But I have researched and I discover that Grail movement is a religion. We have Chrislam, a combination of Christians and Muslims. We have Ekanka. In fact, because of the coming of foreigners like the Indians, we have Hinduism in Nigeria, but at a level of nobody consider these people when you're talking about dialogue. It is about Christians. Okay, if they don't even know about the other ones, what about the traditional religion? Who involved them? Who called them? They are not called at the round table. And the conflict, the violence affects them too. Nobody's discussed that with them. And so I met a traditionalist that told me, you Muslims and Christians are the problems of Nigeria. And he's right. Because the man is in his shrine. He's a peaceful person. It's the Christians and the Muslims that are causing the problem. It's the same Christians and Muslims that are discussing the issues. And so I just want to say that I intend in my work to include these people because I know some of them. Can we talk about issues like this? It's very important. Happy about your question. I think I need a cup of water to answer that question.
It depends on your answer.
Yes, I need a glass of water to answer the question. It's really a tough question and very practical. I like that. But let me just start by saying, thank you for serving me, my Oga. Nigeria will say. Let me start by talking about these leaders that you saw their pictures. These are people of reputation. That, you know, the Sultan of Sokoto is a peaceful man. Cardinal Onyanka is a peaceful person. In fact, the present bishop of Abuja, who is Archbishop Kagama, is a peaceful person. So these are people that have reputation. I agree with you that dialogue should go beyond. Even the SDGs are talking about localizing. Dialogue should go beyond the high level to that. But I take exception when you say they get the money and eat it. How much will you give Cardinal Onyanka, who has even a foundation that is sponsoring people, that is supporting people? How much will you give Sultan of Sokoto? But let's come down to the level of the middle class. And that is why we have the IDFP that KAICIT successfully established. These are people that are in touch with the local people. Last week, we did practical sessions on interreligious dialogue. And I'm telling you here that by next week, they have gone back to the local governments and local communities to talk about that. Some of us, you cannot see our pictures here because we have been doing interreligious dialogue at the local level. And so we don't have anybody to take our pictures and show it here. That is why you don't have my picture. I am involved in the dialogue between the herders and the farmers, the Fulanis, the Irigues, the Birom, for those of us who know Nigeria very well. I am involved. But nobody, my picture cannot be here. So, but I agree with you that we need to take dialogue down to the grassroots. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And these are two tough questions, really challenge in the field. How do you engage governments who do not see a role for religious leader at all, and they refuse and reject, especially in region where it's very secular, or also in South Asia? That's an issue that we have faced not only in Myanmar with many other regional agencies. And the other one, it's not either or, you know, top down or bottom up. It's not either or, and we've seen this in many places, and it's a great question to see how we can connect the middle, the top, as also the bottom-up approaches. Let's take a few more questions, and then we have, we'll take another round. Forget your name from Pakistan, Saad.
Okay. Thank you all. And I have two questions, and these are general questions anybody can answer. The first question is that, do you think that the SDGs will be successful in the most difficult countries, or will be implemented in those countries? And the second question is that, are there some indicators to monitor the SDGs or assess them?
Thank you. Thank you, Saad. Yes, the person beside you, and then we'll come to this area to our brother from Iraq.
Good evening, all. My name is Father Stephen from Nigeria. I have a question to my sister from Myanmar and to all the panelists. And the first question is, the citizenship issue, is it targeted towards a particular people? And is it a government policy not to offer some people citizenship? Because sometimes, I know it works either way. That's my question. And then the second question to all the panelists, I don't know whether those of us who are here on the high table are coming from a minority group or a majority group. If you are coming from a minority group, what is the response of the majority group that belongs to your community? Like the rabbi from London, for example, he gave a statistic: Christians 50%, Jews 14%, Muslims 2.5%. For me, it's more likely that the Muslims will be interested in dialogue than the Christians. And what is your experience to all those who are panelists? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I ask the next one and the remaining, not to ask two questions, to ask one question only? Because it seems that there is a pattern. Once you have the microphone, you ask two questions. Only one, please.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to ask only one question. So my question is, in countries that if the percentage of the religions is in a balance, some of them mentioned that, for example, in some of the countries, the percentage is 80 or 90% Muslim and the others are from other religions. So, for example, in Iraq, there are many religions that not mentioned or recognized in the constitution. How the religious leader from the religions that are recognized in the constitution can play a role in recognizing the other religions, especially the major religions might be from similar percentage. We don't have, for example, 90% against 10% or like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we will... Okay, go ahead. Yes, last question now.
One question. Okay. I'm Ramesh from Sri Lanka. Citizenship issue has been a major issue not only in Myanmar but in India today even. India has adopted a ban, a law that excludes Muslims as well as Sri Lankan Tamils living in India. So in terms of citizenship of Rohingyas, there has been, I think, more than 1 million people living in Bangladesh without the citizenship. That has been major and contentious issue. Now, my question is, do you think that there is a space for religious leaders and civil society organizations to engage the governments or state machinery to talk about citizenship issue of Rohingya Muslims? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. These are really good questions and also a sensitive one. In our last round, the next one, we're going to go to the marginalized, neglected section of this room, which is that one there. We're going to get to you. I'm aware that we did not get to you, so otherwise we'll have an accusation of marginalization. And they might form an identity, actually. So, citizenship, you have a question. Rabbi, maybe minority and majority and the response to it. And any question you would like to answer from the SDG, difficult in different places? What are the criteria for SDG as well? Yes, please.
Thank you. So citizenship issues in Myanmar, it's specifically targeted to the minority, religious minority, especially Muslims, I would say that. So, but 24% of the population doesn't get citizenship card yet because of rural areas. In terms of rural areas, some hill area, they don't have a knowledge of how to get citizenship, the procedures of complexity of procedures. That is one thing. Another majority is Rohingya communities and Muslim communities. So we have others communities like minority ethnics in around the country. Now Myanmar is really diverse, like more than 135 ethnic city. So Rohingya been not recognized as ethnics. They been get citizenship card 1955. So I'm answering all the question together. So they been recognized as ethnics and citizenship. But when it's come to 1977, the military government took away their cards. So, and since from 1991. Most of the Muslim community get difficulty access to citizenship. So for example, in terms of me, I'm a minority group called Kaman, which is recognized as an ethnic city. So even though government recognizes an ethnic city, there is difficulty to get access to citizenship cards. Because of you're religious. If you mention you're religious, you have to go to the different procedures, and like there are many discriminatory ways on that too. So they will say that you are from the outside of the country, you are Kala. Kala is a discriminatory word to the Muslims. You are mixed blood from Pakistan or India or Bangladesh or some sort of like that. And the staff from the immigration office will not proceed according to the law. So they will take money, corruption, or like you have to take time, like 2 years. In my case, I have to wait for 2 years to get the citizenship card. So these are the problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, Rabbi, do you have any comment on the issue of minority, majority, and the responses?
Could I go back to the other question about grassroots?
You are a rabbi, you can do whatever you want.
Okay. So then, being a rabbi, then you also forgive me if I quote from the scripture. With regards to the question of grassroots, and perhaps it will lend itself to minority, majority, I wanted to tell you about Mitzvah Day. If that slide could be put up again, I'd appreciate it. So in the United Kingdom, in 2008, a woman named Laura Marks, who has been given an award by the Queen for her efforts, started what is called Mitzvah Day. The idea was that we would ask people to donate time, not money. And because it's easy to find an hour or two, what was done was a designated day of the year was chosen. It usually is the last day of Interfaith Week, which is a week in November in the United Kingdom. And we encouraged local communities to find local projects that they can work on. And after several years of doing that, what was discovered is that the people who were giving of their time recognized that they were doing something good for their own community, and they found strength and empowerment in it. And then gradually, people from different faiths recognized that if they worked together, it was even more achievable, more impactful. And so we have, in 2018, we don't have the 2019 statistics yet, but in 2018, there were 40,000 people who participated in Mitzvah Day. It's a remarkable idea because it is transferable to every country in the world. It doesn't require that you only use the database that we have created in the United Kingdom. And it draws on the idea that in Genesis 1, the scripture says that the Almighty created human beings in God's image. And when we work together from a position of care and love and trying to do good, what we discover is the goodness in the souls of each other. And seeing that makes us more attractive to each other. And so that's what I think is one of the remarkable achievements of Mitzvah Day. In terms of minority and majority, perhaps I'll just offer a light comment. And that is, I often, when I speak to schools or other institutions, I ask them, how many Jewish people do you think there are in the world? And people come up with all kinds of answers. Of a population of 7.7 billion, I think about 2.3 billion are ascribing to Christianity, and 1.8 to 2 billion ascribe to Islam, and maybe 1.2 billion to Buddhism, and another 1 billion to Hinduism. And when you go all the way down to the very bottom of the list and several rungs below that, you get to the Jewish population, which is about 15 to 18 million, which would account for a statistical error in tracking the population of the world. And yet, we find a need to live amongst each other in Jewish communities and then argue with each other all of the time.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please. Yes, it works.
Yeah, I just want to respond to the question about SDG in difficult country, yeah. I think as anthropologist, I have to be honest. Actually, there are two answers. Which the first one, the optimistic way that actually it is possible to, to build SDGs in the difficult countries, maybe in the poor countries. We have seen already the number of education, technology, and so on. It is growing and more developed. So in the I don't want to say pessimist, in the realistic way, actually, this is not easy, actually, to build SDG in the difficult countries. We have seen, let's say, the statistical data about the poverty, about the conflict, environmental crisis, climate change, and so on. So always has been faced by the country who are very poor. So actually, this is not easy, actually. So unless the rich countries can help them to, to build more education for women, for children, to reduce the number of poverty and so on. So it's depend on how we perceive the SDG in the context. So I think so.
Thank you. And just a quick comment, that's Dr. Suad, that's one of the major issues that the SDG are facing. And the knowledge, the hypothesis, it will not be implemented equally in all parts of the world. And that's where the appeal to all the sector of the society to engage, among them religious leader and civil society, to be supporting that. Yes.
Thank you. You've actually mentioned some of the things that I wanted to mention. It depending on the context, talking about the success of SDGs, it talks about the commitment of the people. Are you really committed? Yes, if we are to that, I'm sure it will succeed. Monitoring of the success, well, I don't know. But of course, I believe that when we are sincere, this is one thing I've discovered in most of my engagements with people. let me use, sorry to use Nigeria. Nigeria is a very beautiful country. Let nobody deceive you and think that we're fighting. We're not fighting. But I just want to say that in Nigeria, people, you meet some certain people talk with two mouths. Nigeria will put that way. What they say here is different with what they will do outside. So if there's level of commitment, I mention it again, we are going to succeed in the implementation of this. Then, the question you asked about Muslims are likely to be ready for dialogue. I don't know, are you using the context of Nigeria? But let me just talk about the context of Nigeria. For me, who teach in a seminary and in the university, when you ask students about, in the seminary they told me, Mr. Mugu, why are you teaching us about peace? I think you need to go to the Muslim and talk to them. That is a perception. The perception is that the Muslims are the ones that are causing the problem, so therefore they need dialogue. I don't know the context, but in our own context, students have told me, Christian students have told me, why are you talking about peace in the seminary where we are peaceful people? Go to the Muslims and talk to them. They are the cause of the problem we have in Nigeria. And this has informed some of the leaders, even religious leaders in Nigeria. When you meet them, when they're talking, you discover that they are thinking the same way. So for me, whether Muslims or Christians, we are all ready for dialogue because we are affected. I ask the question and I end here. Thank you.
Thank you. We have about 7 minutes. We're going to take 3 questions or 2 from the right group, if they choose to. Okay, I know you were in the middle, but then you went to this group. That's a good exercise. So go ahead. I know. You're watching. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all of you. I am Mansur Limba from the Philippines. My question could be answered by any of our distinguished panelists. As you may observe, in any country wherein there is an issue of citizenship and inclusion, the issue is always tied with time frame setting by the government. If the time frame is set in this century, this group would be excluded, or vice versa. My question is, what do you think is an equitable way of setting timeline for determining inclusion and citizenship to the inhabitants of any country? Thank you.
Do you mean what's the role of religious leader in setting up that timeline?
No, equitable way of setting timeline for the government.
Okay, thank you. Any other request? Yes. Mike, give her. This will be our last question.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for all panels. My name is Haya from Saudi Arabia. My question for all the panelists, but I concentrate with the Rabbi and Sister Amna. As some of you know that Saudi opened the door for the tourism. So how could we use this advantage to be linked with the whole world and to open for pluralism? And also for the citizenship, Nigerian aspect and Myanmar aspect, how could we enhance the pluralism in our community and take advantage of the multicultural tourist who's coming to Saudi? And I take this chance to invite everybody here in the room to visit Saudi and to see such beautiful country. It's open for all, and welcome from now to see you in Saudi. Thank you.
And I think the invitation includes free home stay with Hannah. Okay. I think it's a very good time now to give the 4 panelists 1 minute each in order to respond and say your concluding thoughts and remark if you wish. And we'll start from Rabbi. Oh, not ready? Okay, ready? Conclusion or response to the two questions? Encouraging tourism? Okay, all right, go ahead. I think we landed at you.
Okay, go back to the question of our brother Mansur Limba. This is kind of the question for dissertation project for me about timeline. You know, this is not easy. But well, at least we we can share about Indonesian story about the timeline of SDG. Of course, we are very huge country with the very diverse of multi-ethnic groups, religions, and so forth. So we are now going better and better because of the timeline as well. So we work collaboratively, not only for the government institutions. We need to engage with communities, you know, with the academia, with activists, with NGO, and many other levels. This is how to create SDG to go back with the timeline as like what UN requires. So I think working collaboratively is the key issue in the timeline. And then about Saudi Arabia, of course, like Indonesia and Saudi Arabia has a very good relation. We are always doing Umrah and Hajj all the time, you know. So I think for Indonesia we have no problem, and of course we are happy to know if Saudi more open-minded about multicultural tourism. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for the Mansoor, the question about timeline and time frame. So it is easy if you're doing like a project or your initiative, it is easy, but it's come to the government timeline we cannot involve until the government open the floor. So it is like a very difficult question. So in terms of Myanmar, we always try as a civil society to push to the government to amend their citizenship law as a timeline. But it doesn't happen. So like 2012 conflict happened and government changed at 2015 and there is a new commission to solve the conflict, Kofi Annan Commission. It's also mentioned, like not only civil society, activists, and even the international community also pushing to do that, but if the government is not willing to do that, it will not happen as a timeline. So I will say that. Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to talk about timeline because in Nigeria, we don't have this issue at all. A citizen is a citizen anywhere, except that they have introduced another concept of indigenship, which is causing the problems in Nigeria. Yeah, my concluding remarks?
Yes, less than 1 minute.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here. I just want to celebrate KAICIID for organizing this wonderful conference, and that shows that you are actually leading the process of dialogue in the world. And I believe I'm taking the message back to Nigeria. We will engage more in dialogue and giving the women opportunity to discuss their issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Rabbi.
Thank you, Professor. So I will echo Mugu's thoughts and also connect to the words of our keynote speaker to say that I too feel an enormous debt of gratitude to KAICIID, and when I come back to Vienna, I always feel like I'm coming home to a place that I want to see spread much more widely throughout the world. Two thoughts to share with you. One is, I heard from a wonderful religious Hindu leader about 2 weeks ago that it's very difficult to solve the problems that are created, that come from the same mind that created them. In order to solve a problem that was created with the mindset that we have, it's impossible unless we change, unless we reprogram our thinking. So that's one thought I would share with you. And the other is that change begins from within. This is something that we always talk about here, as well as in a lot of the other interfaith organizations that I'm involved with. Change has to begin from within. Once we develop, as was stated yesterday, a loving heart, a sense of inclusivity, a sense of tolerance, an absence of hatred, and all of those things that we want to see projected around us, then we can hope that some of that change will occur.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Please, we started with a very simple question. You heard lots of stories. We had some difficult questions and some easy questions. We also intended to have this kick-off of this 1.5-day conference, and I hope we succeeded in giving you just a starting point. I invite you all to continue those conversations tomorrow, and please join me in thanking our esteemed colleague here. Thank you. Thank you. And I will hand the microphone to our Secretary General. He has...
Okay. I would like, if you allow me, please. Yeah, I would like to thank you all. You know, really, we enjoy the level of discussion. I thought some of you can be foreign ministers or minister of religion, or do you want? Shall I appoint you? No. You know what I want to say? Just three quick comments about the issue. I believe, you know, we are creating really something in the interfaith activities never been done by engaging youth, and I consider you all youth from all over the world to handle the discussion. But you know, there is something very important for us to know. I think one of the issues created all these problems everywhere. It's in some regions there is extra dose of religion, and in some regions or in some part of the world there is extra dose of politics. We pushed religion back to the extent that we are feeling now we have to create, what do you call it, a peaceful relation again. I mean, everybody, 84% of the population of the world, they are identified by their religious belief. So why we are over emphasizing that? We should really introduce people by their citizenship, by, you know, so this is really can eliminate what we see in many parts of the world when some people, are you a Christian Nigerian or Muslim Nigerian or Sunni Saudi or Shia Saudi? You know, it's really, we have to get out of this circle, to the circle of the citizenship. Second, which was, maybe Sharon Rosen will be surprised and see it. I said it today to the Arab Fellowship group. The saddest thing in life when you have the SG of the United Nations declare a plan for the protection of the holy site. This is for me a bad signals, very, very bad signals, that we are now going to protect, even in the most civilized societies now, in the Western world, you need cameras and you need security to feel free to pray or to go. You know what happened to the Jews in Pittsburgh and some in different parts of the world, to Muslim and Christian. So this is not a good sign, in fact. That's really, for us, it's a shock. Please don't tell the SG of the United Nations title, or as my great friend, Mr. Moratinos. What we need really to do is, and maybe Sharon, she heard it from me before, we need Muslim to protect Christian, and Christian protect Muslim, and Jews protect Muslim. And they have very good programs in the state, shoulder to shoulder, and other issues, you know, which is really amazing. So we need to expand this area. I please ask you, because you are concerned about the grassroots, to think of this initiative. Maybe sometimes you go to higher level of thinking how to solve the crisis of the world, and then you will find yourself blocked, reach dead end, and you cannot do things, and then you get upset, and then you will quit. No. Do some start. I like what the Rabbi, really, you said something. Start with yourself. And this is really going to help a lot. I don't want really to take so much time, but I really enjoyed the discussion, and I had to say some words because I am not going to be with you tomorrow in the morning where we have a lot of meetings in the afternoon, but I will see you in the evening. I think you're doing a lot of excellent, and KAICEED family now is growing all over the world. Last thing, we are thinking seriously to have KAICEED Center, what do you call it, mobile maybe, or visual. It can be with you anywhere in the world. You don't have to have a location. And it can be done, We are going through this discussion now to create something fits with the revolution of technology. So through technology, you can connect with each other. You have established this. Dr. Safiullah and our team, we met today and the last few days. We are thinking seriously to have a center which is not visible. You didn't see it, so nobody can touch us. Thank you very much.